the previous videos, we mentioned about the importance of knowing the assignment. This is very important for you to be able to score well in your assignment. The relevant information may be obtained from the project handouts, which are normally given during the briefing of the assignments at the early of the semester. There will be details and specifications of the assignment, giving you idea the components as well as the levels of complexity of the assignment, as well as the purpose of the assignment in achieving the outcome of the course reinforced concrete design. There will also be instructions, scopes and details of the project for you to know that the tasks that you need to carry out in accomplishing the projects, and there will be information regarding the assessment. You know that assignment itself is a part of the assessment for the course. It comprises the report as well as the oral presentations, and based on the reports and the presentations, the lecturers will be able to evaluate your performance and understanding that acquired from the assignment which is related to the course. There will be an evaluation process rating the quality of the design output as well as your level of understanding. These later will be translated into the scoring marks that are later to be compiled together with the other assessment such as the progress test and the final exam in order to determine your grade as well as your status, whether you're going to pass or you're going to fail the course. This is one of the most important part of it, where the expectations and the standards of your lecturers are normally clearly stated and made transparent to you. Due to lacking of the awareness of the importance of knowing the details of the assessment, most of the students simply ignore this. And this is the main reason that most students are unable to score well in their assignment. It is either missing some important element in terms of the design output, not being given in the report or the presentations, or not meeting the standards as expected by the lecturer. You need to know clearly what are the expectations of your lecturer so that you know to which degree you need to produce your quality of your design output for you to score good marks for your assignment. In these videos, we're going to cover this assessment part. We are talking about the assessment criteria here. It is basically a criteria-based scoring guideline. It is a guideline to you and your lecturers, except the purpose is different. As far as the lecturer concerned, it serves as the guideline to rate you in terms of the quality of your output, as well as the level of understanding that you have demonstrated. And as far as you as a student concerned, it serves as a guideline for you to make sure you achieve the required standard by your lecturer. If you know how to properly utilize it, in fact, this assessment criteria is to your advantage, and best of all, it is made transparent to you. Most of the university have this standardized to be transparent to the students. In fact, it is your right to request for the tentative assessment criteria, that it is the responsibility of the lecturer to make this be transparent to you in terms of their expectations. You may request from your lecturer if it is not given. It is basically used to evaluate the student's performance, and it is normally handed out during the briefing of the assignment before you actually start your assignment. Then by looking through this assessment criteria, you can plan ahead so that every single step that you made, every single task you do, meets the requirements and the expectations of the lecturers. It basically systematically outlines the scope of the assessment. You know what's going to be assessed and what's not going to be assessed. It also describes the expectations of the instructors. That means to which level or what kind of things that is expected by the lecturers. It also describes the level of quality, which you can use it to do your self-evaluations. If you really know how to interpret the assessment criteria, you can actually do your self-evaluations, and the expected result, it will be similar as being rated by your lecturers. That is the most ideal situations, as well as it gives you a list of the performance criteria. Based on the criteria, you know that whether you are performing well or you are not performing it well. Let us look at one example. Although there is a wide variety of the assessment rubrics, different courses may have different rubrics. Even the same courses conducted by different lecturers will have different rubrics. This one, it will be dependent on the expectations of the lecturer, as well as the emphasis given by the respective lecturers. There will be ratings from 0 to 4. 0 means very poor, and 4 means excellent, and 1 to 3, it will be somewhere in the middle. If you look at the scale here, having the scale of 2 and below, that means you are not really meeting the standard. As it states here, approaching standard with the rating of 2. In order for you to meet the standard, it will be either 3 or 4. The 3, that means you meet the standard. 4, it means that you amaze your lecturer, which you exceed the expectations of your lecturers. You will need to take some time to look into the descriptions given by different rating scales. Don't ignore this, and you will see that every single word within the descriptions shall carry meanings. You need to be able to distinguish the meanings of the terms used in order for you to differentiate which rating you are on. With that, let us look into it one by one so that you have an idea how the lecturer is going to use the assessment rubrics. Again, this is just an example. Your lecturer might use another set of rubrics, as this is normally custom made by the lecturers, depending on the needs and the requirements by the lecturer. In order for you to get rating 4, which is excellent, you will need to exceed the expectations of your lecturer. You must be able to perform all the required tasks excellently. Not only you perform all the required tasks, it needs to be performed in the excellent manner. And you need to demonstrate the essential attributes without lecturer's guidance. That means you take your own initiative, you know how to meet the expectations, even without the guidance of your lecturer. The second one, it will be rating 3, meeting the standards. That means you meet the expectations of your lecturers, and you are able to perform all the required tasks well. That means you are able to perform all the tasks and you have done it well. That is the meaning of meeting the expectations. And you demonstrate necessary attribute with minimum supervisions. That means there will be some guidance from the lecturers, but you are more proactive. With little guidance, you are able to come up with most of the things that you need to learn and gain through this assignment. The third one, it will be approaching the standard. That means it's just meet the requirement or expectations, which you are able to perform most of the required tasks with acceptable qualities. That means not all of the tasks meeting the qualities. There will be some of it below the expectations. Demonstrate the necessary attribute with constant guidance from the lecturers and peers. That means there will be heavy guidance by the lecturer, and sometimes you will need to seek help from your friends. Next, it will be below the standard, where you perform partial of the required tasks. Most of them will not meet the expectations. That means first you miss some part of the required tasks, and there will be a lot not really meeting the requirements by your lecturer. And demonstrate some necessary attribute with constant guidance from the lecturers and peers. The main difference between the two and the one here is you only acquire some necessary attributes, and here you acquire the necessary attributes. Again, you will need constant guidance from the lecturers, and you will need help from your peers to accomplish the task. That is the meaning of below standards here. Then for rating 0, which is the poor standard, you are unable to perform the required tasks and unable to demonstrate necessary attribute even with constant guidance from the lecturers and peers. That means in this case, even with the guidance by the lecturer, you're still not meeting the requirements. Now that you know the rating from 0 to 4, we will look into the assessment for different parts of your assignment. It will include the oral presentations, the structural plans, as well as the written report. This will be the three main focus of the assessment. The rating is given here from 0 to 4. There will be weightage. That means we are talking about 3 criteria for the oral presentations. Some obviously overweight as compared to the other criteria. That means in terms of the marks, it will be quantified by multiply the weights with the whichever rating that you have acquired, which if you acquire full 4 rating, you will get 3 marks for the first criteria. If you manage to score everything perfect, the total marks will be equals to 5 marks, as defined by the specifications of the assignment earlier. This gives you an idea. There are some criteria which seems more important than the other as perceived by the lecturers. This will be the part that costs you more marks, which you do not like yourself losing any marks here, so that you can score well in your presentations. From here you will see that we are talking about the delivery of the message, where the message is clearly delivered and the delivery is effective. That means the audience can easily understand what you are presenting during the presentations. The points must be relevant, well organized, and with adequate depth and sufficient details. And this is the part that gives you the highest weightage. Your ultimate goal here is to find some way to effectively present your things, making sure every single thing that you present are relevant, well organized, and easily understood. There shouldn't be any redundancy. Minimize the repetitions, as this will be irrelevant. You need to cover adequate depth, and all the necessary details need to be enclosed, and the presentation itself needs to be standalone. Assuming that the evaluator never read through your report, the evaluator can still acquire the most out of your presentations. The second part, it will be the language and vocabulary, which you need to speak properly and fluently. You need to use the correct and precise pronunciations, and the statement that you made need to be with appropriate terminologies and grammatically correct. This one is related to your English speaking skills. Of course, if you are a native English speaker, you are of advantage, at least for this part. If you are not a native English speaker, you will need to practice more to make sure you speak properly so that you can score well for the language and vocabulary part. And then there will be presentation skills. You will need to demonstrate confidence and professionalism. That means during the presentations, it needs to be persuasive. The audience need to believe whatever you said, whatever you disclose is with credible, which you have done a lot of homework and you don't simply state it without proper justifications. And you will need to be able to answer the questions with little difficulties. This will be in two parts. The first part is answering the question in good English, and you have a good background knowledge to help you to answer the questions. That is the meaning of little difficulties. Most of the students may feel this will be the most difficult part, as they are unable to spot what kind of questions being asked by the lecturers or evaluators. They find this to be most difficult to get themselves prepared, which in the reality, that is not entirely the case. You can actually make yourself to be more well prepared, not just focusing on practicing your presentations and then that's it. Practicing your presentations only, it will only help you in the criteria here. You will need to be able to have sufficient background knowledge, know every single aspect of the design. Although the design work is done by 5%, which there are areas that you did not cover, you need to spend effort to know that. Other than that, you will need to think on the aspect of the audience, any part that not clearly explained throughout the presentations. Most likely this will be the questions being asked by the audience. Also, you have to think from the perspective of the evaluator, as some questions may be asked for the sake to test your understanding. The evaluator may have already have the answer, just that the questions is being asked is to cross-check whether you actually know the answer and know the principle behind the questions. This you can also practice by having a simulations of the presentations, asking your friend to play the role as the evaluators, try to spot the questions being asked by the lecturers, and through these simulation sections, you will find yourself to know more about your assignment. And this is normally the part that not being done by the students, and normally what we observe during the presentations of the group assignment, each members will be only able to answer the questions related to their own part. And in the case that the connections between different parts is being asked, most likely the students are unable to answer those. And this will affect this third criteria here. This assessment rubrics actually give you a lot of important informations. It tells you the focus of the assessment. You see here, the assessment here are purely on the presentations. If you can do the presentation well, even though there are some lackings in terms of the technical part, you can still score well for the presentations, as the technical part is not the emphasis of the assessment here. It will be assessed in the other part of the assessment. I'm not saying that you can do any bluffing during the presentations, but if you really bluff, you have to do it confidently and portray good professionalism, which normally bluffing is unable to have that. And when you bluff, you will have problem with the relevant point, and most likely you will bluff along the way while you are thinking, That means you might not have the information to be well organized. Even though you know that the technical part is not the emphasis of the assessment, it is not like you talking nonsense, you can still score well, because there will be areas reflected somewhere in the assessment criteria. So bluffing will not work. And what is the importance knowing that the focus is not on the technical aspect here? Then you will know that you have to pay more attention on how you do the presentations. The informations and the technical aspect, it will be the secondary to the presentation section. It is a tool to reflect whether you can present it well or not. Your focus, it will be how you're going to make the complex thing to be simplified, how you're going to make the audience to understand those numbers. Make sure whichever you speak is really in the layman term, understood by everyone, no confusions, and you only need to present the essential part of the design aspects. You don't have to cover every single details from 0 to 100%. This is normally not achievable. You need to be able to manage the amount of content you're going to deliver during the presentations.